before we get into each individual match that has happened today, this game, since the beginning of this Call of Duty year, it has felt different than any other years of Call of Duty. The challenger scenes has blew up with a bunch of new teams and a bunch of new owners, and just the content around the challenger scene. And that's something positive. Challenger scene has been swept under the rug these past couple of years since the creation of the CDL. So seeing that pop off to the extent that it is, it's something amazing to see. And it just helps with the league itself, helps with the fans, the players, the drama, the viewership, everything like that. So you want something like that to come in, and where you have the Mercules, the Shotzys, the Simps, the underrated players, and trying to make it to the top. And the season has been really entertaining. It hasn't even just started, but has been really entertaining with the content wise, and the watch parties, and the matches, and the teams, and the players. So that's something you really want to see. And then for me, this is 100% one of the most competitive Call of Duty seasons we have seen so far. With coming through the season, people expect, Optic, the normal team is probably just the Optic, the LA Thieves, and people didn't really have Gentlemates at the start to be the team that they are right now. You have the Red Falcons, which for me, I've always, same with Paris. I thought that they had a really strong core, and today was really upsetting for them, but we'll get into that. And then also you have Carolina out of nowhere online. Even after his bad performance today, still in the qualifiers, they looked great and one of the best teams out there. And then FaZe with the huge roster changes, so a bunch of new players and storylines and everything coming in here. But yeah, let's get into the first matches here. Here we're going to go into the Paris Gentlemates going against the Toronto Koi. Two new revamped teams, obviously, with the MA Gorillas of what they were, LA Gorillas the year prior also. And you have Toronto Koi, originally Toronto Ultra, rebrand with the Spanish team. So now you have a sort of a French versus Spanish / Canadian, teams. CDO hasn't had a team outside North America since 2023, I want to believe, and you just had London Royal Ravens before they had. I'm pretty sure that's it. I think they just had the London Royal Ravens was the only European team. So it was great to see. Also, you can include Miami Heretics, even though the two Spanish teams have NA-based city, they're still a Spanish organization. So it's great to see more Europeans, more teams outside just the North American region being in here. But now we have this match here. You can obviously Paris Gentlemates, they've looked like, for me, the best team this season so far. Optic Texas won the first, I think it was the Monster tournament that was the preseason, and then I'm pretty sure Paris Gentlemates won that Optic tournament they had at the beginning. And then since then, I think Paris Gentlemates are the most consistent team. They have, for this league, the best core out of all of them. When creating this team, these are the players I've favored. Envoy, I think Thieves dropping him was just a shame. Same with Ghosty. I think they didn't have. They won 2 championships last year just for dropping Ghosty, which is, for me, out of Envoy and Ghosty, I would have kept Ghosty. He is just that player you need in the team, and he had an excellent game today. It was just weird dropping 2 key players like this and forming pretty much a super team. You want to say Neptune arguably could have been MVP of last year, done amazing things with Vancouver Surge. Didn't win anything with them. Had a great core, had a great team. Made champs, made EWC finals. Didn't get the results he wanted. Lost every final he was in. I think it was 4. But coming to this team, 100% going to win something. And then you have Sib, who had a downward year. For me, he was good for New York, but then didn't have the core around him. The year prior, he made it to the World Championship Finals, lost it against Optic, and he's always been a player that players honestly poke fun, or fans poke fun. Just a player that doesn't get as much as respect for me that he deserves. So, and he's looking great out there also. So just for me, just a huge fan of this core group. And then you have Toronto Koi, who just looked terrible. In the beginning of the game, for me, they looked really strong. The Toronto Koi 100% could have been, or 100% was a top 3 team towards the beginning. You had Insight, who people have been saying to drop him for years now, who's been in this team since the Toronto Academy. And if people remember the Singularity team back in, I think, BO4, MW, one of those, the whole Singularity um, Academy thing. Also, they were in the main league, but during the CWO, I'm pretty sure. But then you had him. You had Kleenex, who's also been in this. I'm pretty sure he was also in Singularity. Joe Thieves, who another mistake of Thieves dropping, he looks really good. And then you have Real, who they just picked up after the whole debacle and controversy under Miami Heretics, and he had a poor performance. He said it himself during the game. It was just a terrible performance from them. First was a Den hard point, and it was almost a back and forth, type of thing. Paris Gentlemates were 100% outslaying. They were winning each rotation. They were getting the kills. They were winning pretty much everything there. But then Koi was still managed to get time and up until towards the end of the last like 3 hills, and then you had Paris just winning that. And Exposure 6-3 win. Exposure is always like it could be any team really that can win those. It really depends on of course which in the maps. Or not Exposure, I meant what's it called? S&D. I'm thinking about the wrong thing. They were 6-3 in S&D, and then you have an Overload is what I meant, and then you had Paris Gentlemates taking that win, and then you got the hardpoint win also in Exposure, back to back Exposure maps, and then they crushed them 250-154. Terrible performance from Toronto Koi. We'll see what happens. They're gonna go against Miami Heretics, and that is going to be a match no one wants to miss after the whole drama and controversy, everything like that. It's going to be a really entertaining match. This was a surprising one with LA Thieves going against Carolina Royal Ravens. Honestly, just a sad performance from Ravens. Honestly, you can 100% say the onliners, because this was just a belt to ass. This was a terrible performance from the Carolina Royal Ravens. After dropping a slasher and picking up Exceed, they looked like one of the best teams. They were winning. They beat Optic in a crazy fashion. They were winning, and then coming here with LA Thieves, who always they were being iffy, saying just to drop Kenny, to make a change, to just start something new. They picked up, of course, Neum in the bench. They wanted to swap. Never happened. Of course, it's not gonna happen. It's only been just qualifiers. But you expected more out of the Carolina Royal Ravens, and it was just a terrible performance from pretty much every single one. The hardpoint, S&D, and Overload just crushed. 189, 250, 6-3, and 6-3 on both of them. Clean sweep 3-0. Hydra was looking phenomenal. He was 100% the player of them. Yep. He had a 1.7. Wow. 1.7 in total, 1.4 KD during the series. Amazing performance from him. Kenny looked really strong out there. He, after all the trash talking from the community and everyone seeing him to be dropped, he put a performance like that and 100% deserves to be noticed as that. And then you had Abezy and Scrap, who played also extremely, extremely well. Optic Texas going against Reed Falcons. This one really shocked me. Reed Falcons, they were second or first during the seedings of the qualifiers. They have a strong team. You got Pred, Kismet, Exnid, and Celium. You have Celium, who is, he can win MVP every season. He has the highest KD every year. They bought huge for him. FaZe dropping him was, I didn't agree with FaZe really did, dropping Abezy and Celium. Same thing with LA Thieves. And these past couple of weeks, Falcons were looking like the team. They were finally, slowly molding into that high caliber team. Boom, they got top seeding, so that's really important for them. And then coming to this match, is it an online thing? Because they got belt ass to Optic in another embarrassing way. 250, 135 on hardpoint, 6-3 in S&D, and then 4-1 in Overload. Just terrible from the Reed Falcons. They pretty much did no competition there. Optic looked like their former selves after a couple disappointing weeks. A few losses there. They it's only the beginning of the qualifier, so you can't really, teams are adapting, teams are doing new stuff. You got winners bracket, might as well try to change something there. But then you had Mercules, who is just such a phenomenal player, just one out of a million player you have there, and he played amazing. You have Shotzzy, Dashy, of course. Huke is the only one that went negative this match. Man, Optic looked phenomenal. They were just. I don't think Falcons should make a change out of all these teams. I think um, only ones to make a change, maybe Koi, maybe drop Jamie. Besides that, Carolina should stick it out. Yes, it was a bad beating, but when you have LEDs playing to their top of the top, you have to expect the worst for yourselves. And then this one was just shocking and embarrassing. G2, I've always liked the way G2 play. For me, they were my dark horse. I said that this G2 team is 100% underrated, and they are 100% capable of going far into this tournament. And then this is what they did against FaZe, a 3-0 fashion. Not sure what happened. This was really bad, especially in the overload. I don't know. It's FaZe. All they had to do was just hold, and they let 2 slip in the last couple seconds, which is just it should have ended. It should have went to a hard point. 100% should have. But no, terrible performance from FaZe as a whole. Simp, the only one that went positive. 04 vote, 0.75, 0.78 for Abezy, and 0.81 for Draza. Is this time for a Luca? Is this, FaZe, the whole Luca debacle? Boom, FaZe 3-0 Optic. Boom, FaZe are winning. And people are like, okay, maybe they purchased a Luca for nothing. Maybe a Luca was a waste of 30 grand, which was the reporter, the 20 grand, whatever it was. Looking at this, you just got 3-0'd. Do you need to put on a Luca? Are you going to drop a Draza? Are you going to drop a player for a Luca? You have him in the bench for backup. Might as well use him, no? So there was that. And then you have G2, Skies, who looked great out there. You have Estriel, you have Cramp, Mamba, who was the only one negative, but just a 0.98. They looked strong. They looked composed. This was my dark horse, and this is what they're going to do. They were 100% the best team in that match. Here, I'm trying to find standings, events. I want to see the brackets. Actually, we'll just go on Twitter. So here, pretty much all the matches. I like Thieves. Does it not show? So here we have the bracket there. So G2, or not G2, Paris going against LA Thieves. That is going to be a really good match. And then you have G2 going against Optic, and whatever that will verse each other for the winter finals. Toronto Coin versus Heretics is going to be a match to feed families. That is going to be such a intense and interesting, exciting match to watch. Ravens should 100% get this win against Vancouver Surge. They've been saying they looked good in scrims, but in the league itself, they are, they were nowhere near the other teams. The other teams or at least have the same amount of map wins and losses. Meanwhile, Vancouver only has like 4 map wins. So there's that. So I wouldn't be surprised. You never know what could happen. FaZe versus Boston. I'm gonna have FaZe, even though Boston, I do like a lot of the players, but I'm gonna have Boston. And Falcons versus Cloud9, and it's 100% gonna be Falcons. I don't think Cloud9 are there yet to an extent, but FaZe online is the first thing you see. I don't think is maybe these teams are onliners. Honestly, I have no idea. Just terrible performance from a lot of these teams. A lot of disappointing matches from Ravens, from FaZe, from Falcons, and Koi. I mean, all the 4 teams that lost in a bad way. They didn't lose in a close battle. So it was really shocking that the 4 top, the pretty much all the teams in the winners bracket were the best teams in the league right now, and 4 of them looked horrible. So there was that. But yeah, amazing day 1 of the CDL. I'm really excited for tomorrow.